what is that? An on?
It's brought to you by
Ah,
yeah. But no, so Dish, thank you for making the time on a Friday. I really appreciate it. We were just talking about it, how dense the Farcaster, talent pool is right now, and it's pretty exciting to have joined the time that I did. But I'm sure
thanks. Yeah.
from where you're sitting, it's probably been awesome for you to see how many things are coming up and what Clanker's doing for them.
Dude, insane. Yeah, first, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I really feel like this is like the area that we're all kind of like focused in. It's just like it's so rich and like in terms of ideas, just experiments. And I mean, I haven't found a place like this, right? Where it's like it started out super small, you see people just mess around on the timeline, and now people can build like venture backed, projects off of it. And I think that's the true power of it. The whole far economy is alive and well. And I think that like just from my experience, I think it's like it's real, and here to tell the tale.
Yeah, no, the highs and lows, the drum, like you've been through it all here, man, and I'm just glad to finally connect. Again, heard so many positives from so many people that I've grown to like really look up to. So,
Appreciate that.
yeah, man. But some of the things that you just touched on, being like venture-backed mini apps, I think that that in itself is such a weird thing to say, that you're starting to see this interest from institutional money try and go into these, like, I can't believe it, like mini apps.
Hmm.
So for Clanker, what does that look like for you? I mean, that's had to have been a major boost to what your, business model may have not even anticipated.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it all started because like I was looking for a job, right? And over the summer I was hacking on, smaller projects. I was working on a boat registry on chain, and it never really took off. But through Clanker, I feel like what we were really trying to do, or like was my goal was to raise a round, right? Like VC backed. That was kind of the natural founder or builder dream, right? To be VC backed and have that funding. But through this new kind of liquid market, we were able to bootstrap ourselves and not take an investment, rather than like having the trenches or the people on Farcaster be kind of our backers. And that kind of narrative shift was like it was brand new to me. I didn't think that it was possible. But it feels like we were kind of the example there, and it's super awesome to see all these other builders that followed suit to really kind of use our playbook to at least like test out their hypothesis through experimentation. So I think that just goes to like the richness of the network in terms of the talent, the capital. It's a really special place for builders. Like this wouldn't be possible on X or Reddit or any other social media really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that stands out as I'm just scrolling through the timeline on Farcaster is anytime a token is launched, more likely than not, it's going to be through Clanker. And I think, yeah, just to again reiterate what you're already saying, it's like you've kind of paved this way and helped expand this platform and show the blueprint for other founders that may, be in a situation where they're not able to raise capital from institutional money. All right, cool.
Hmm.
Well, like I'll go get liquidity from, my community, that believe in me and know me as a founder and as a dev on here. And I think that's so cool, like creating these little economies that, it's just democratizing access to capital. And I think that's such a new thing that people are not used to. Even when I talk to these VCs or founders and angels, family offices from a previous life, they don't comprehend what's actually going on in this wave of
Yeah.
internet evolution.
They're late to the game. It's like the trenches get the alpha. They're the first ones, or the traders, right? They know kind of what's coming, or they're the first kind of like person, the first kind of group to like really like see the signal through the noise. And it's been cool to kind of see, these like traders really be able to, kind of see perspectives or prospects coming through the pipeline. And super fortunate that Clanker's been playing a role in this. And yeah, it's just crazy that like, a lot of the institutions are, maybe they're on the timeline. But I think it's really kind of shifting how people think of, backing founders or backing projects. We've seen this through, a variety of types of coins, right? Whether it's like a content coin, an app coin, a creator coin, no matter kind of how you cut the pie, it's believing in something and backing it.
That's right. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, and we could get into that in a bit. But I think the overarching theme here is like if you're not aware and if you're not at least paying attention, you're going to get left behind. And even so, like even when we're referring to institutions, these are still like Web3 native people that have some like decent pulse of what's actually happening. And what's
Hmm.
crazy is like there's if you look at it like a funnel, you know, I would say Farcasts are still at like the very bottom of it, and I say that in a very positive light. Like, and then above that is crypto Twitter, and then above that is like, yeah, like, and then at the very top of that funnel, if I'm trying to imagine it, that's where like all of that legacy finance, those big institutions, the Andreessens, like shout out to like them for being able to like keep a pulse, especially in the crypto space, but the older ones that have not really taken it seriously because of the stigma that crypto has brought, they're going to be left behind because of this synonymous identity of crypto and like Web3. And I think
Hmm.
dividing the two, I think it was Crypto Yoda, I think is what his name is. He just had a great podcast the other day. He was talking about it. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with that name, and I'm just throwing, I think it's Crypto Yoda.
Not familiar.
But
Are they
he worked at
CT?
Price Waterhouse Cooper. He was in charge of their blockchain tech, and then he started to really find this like he started to see this like distinction between crypto and Web3, where like crypto is the pump and dump, and Web3 is the infrastructure, the development, the evolution of the internet as we know it. And I'm too smooth brained compared to like what this guy was articulating, but no, it's just really cool that all of that Clanker fits into that development and that evolution of not only how the technology's operating. I mean, even the bot itself, where it's so seamless. Where if I wanted to start a coin right now, it's 2 clicks. I mean, to
Hmm.
get access to liquidity, that is something like if I'm trying to explain this to like a family office of Gen Xers or Boomers, they're like, What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? I think what again, not to just immediately start glazing. I just think it's really special what you guys have created, and hopefully today, like we're going to be able to discuss what the future looks like for Clanker, what iterations you're going to be. I mean, not too much alpha, but just to get an idea of what's to come from Clanker as well.
Yeah, sure, sure. Happy to share kind of, where we're going in the future. And I think it really is just it kind of boils down to these liquid attention markets. And we want to make this as flexible as possible. I think the beauty of Clanker and kind of like how it's caught on is that, these people trust these tokens, right? They're all primarily deployed with the same configuration. Maybe the name, symbol, image changes, but the deployment method is trusted, right? Like they know what they're deploying. We previously did pre-sales. We're bringing that back with V4. Vaulting is with V3.1, which we've seen as a huge unlock for these app coins or anyone that's really looking just to whether it's an airdrop or things like that to set aside some portion for some whether it's a community unlock for a creator to have them own a share of the pie. We're bringing back pre-sales with V4. We're coming up with airdrops too. This has been we've seen a lot of very novel use cases. Most recently with the Pro coin. Shout out MJC. That was a really cool kind of like social catalyst where they use that quote cast to spread the word about it. With that Pro subscription, and MJC had a really cool V4 hook, which was basically you can't sell until there's 500 holders of this
Yeah.
token. Um, so it was cool to see kind of this speculation come in, kind of like boost volume, and then by the time that like a lot of people claimed, this coin was performing very well in such a short amount of time. That was very well done, and I'm really excited to see what's possible with V4. Um, our V4 will include Uniswap V4. We're coming up with this idea of Clanker extensions, and these are basically an allow listed set of V4 hooks that people can deploy with. They can build around Clanker on the contract level with these hooks to enable things like that permissioned selling.
And would this
And
all be automated? Is that the goal of V4 to be able to put some, code or sorry, I'm not a technical guy.
no, yeah, totally,
Um,
you're good.
but yeah, basically like the way that I'm looking at it and not to shoot myself in the foot, but for something like Startup Radar where my goal and my effort is to engage the community but then reward the community for their engagement, right? And just kind of have this self-perpetuating thing where let's say they find a really cool project that's being built on Farcaster or somewhere in Web3 that they're really passionate about. If they drop that in the channel, I would love to have a token where it's automatically like, I don't know what the validation and attestation process would be like to consider that a quality and not duplicate it and not try and bot the system, but like reward them. If they're doing that work and bringing something valuable to the community, reward it. You know what I mean? So
Totally.
is that
Yeah.
something that you're considering for as you guys scale up?
I think that what we're focusing on is really having the most flexible token deployment methods while capturing the max revenue for the creators, especially in times of high volatility. This is something that we've kind of just been ideating on, perfecting on our side. I think that there's a lot of that, like the reward mechanisms. I think Noise is a perfect example of this, right?
Absolutely.
You have a project coin or whatever type of token is out there, you can now kind of like just micro tip through micro transactions to reward quality content. And I think this, amps too, and all of these tipping mechanisms here are really kind of like they're like ongoing airdrops, which is pretty sick to see out in like the
Like
social feed,
micro
especially.
airdrops, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we're coming up with airdrops, things like this for that TGE moment. Um, I'm really excited to see what else is going to come in terms of like whether it's the pre-deployment. I think that things like whether it's the criteria for this airdrop or tokenized communities, things like that are super cool. That's on the pre-deployment side. Post-deployment, things like noise betterment, where you can like reward your
Shout out to
users for
Betterment.
shout
Yeah.
out to betterment, Toady. There's like so many ways that you can just naturally attract, whether it's users, retention through daily activities, or getting feedback from your product through these reward mechanics are super cool to see, and I don't think this was a thing 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago.
No shot. No
Yeah.
shot. And one of the things, Jack, that I think is really special that you have addressed that, and Solana being added on to Farcaster, I think they're going to start learning how to take notes from the base community. And I mean, look, this is just from an outsider looking in. If I were to compare the two, they're very similar and they're competing very well against each other. One thing that I think base has leveled up on is the fact that the community somehow is not this PvP rug pull. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but for some reason, and I think it's attributed to things like Clanker, where you're putting in these vaults and having these vesting periods that are 30 days long compared to and I think that's a really sweet number because of how quickly the lifespan is of these tokens. Even if you're trying to put utility on it. Even if you're trying to build a business around this token, it's damn near impossible. And it was, I came from being a Solana maxi, introduced to Farcaster, and I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing over there. And, so it's really cool to see the thought go into protecting not only retail and the person holding that token, but at the same time, the reputation of these developers.
Totally. Yeah. I've kind of on the contrary, I haven't really interacted with Solana that much. Kind of like a, EVM. I'm not great at Solidity. We've got Lily and Carter there, absolutely beasts at it, but, kind of know my way around enough. And I think for me, the differentiating factor is the developer ecosystem on base specifically. I again, like maybe it's just because I'm not super familiar with like the Solana developer ecosystem, but I feel like that's the competitive edge, when it comes to base Solana. I think base lacks in, total volume, compared to, Solana. But, I think it's just, it's they're factions, I think, and not in like a not in a, I don't know. I wouldn't competitor rival. I'm not sure, but at least for us, we've found that the EVM is nice, and I like to see it where you can have these. I think like QR, right? Great example. You launch a token, and developers are easy like can easily integrate their own contracts with these tokens. I think that is super powerful in itself. I really haven't seen, and one thing that like I'm kind of looking forward to is a governance model for, I feel like DAOs haven't been around for a few years, but, I think that's kind of my prediction that they'll make a comeback in some form, as these, token factions are out there, or subcultures or things like that, where they have a shared goal and are working towards it. So that's kind of where I think it's going. But at the same time, right, like kind of going back to like that trust mechanic. At Clanker, we really want to display all of you know, the the warning labels, right? Our contracts are permissionless now, so anyone can call into it. We have safeguards in place. But as we offer these more flexible token deployment mechanics, we want to make sure that these traders have the full context. And whether that's the social context, the vaulting percentage, the unlock date, dev by, things like that. It's only going to get more complex from here, but our goal is to, continue to make it as simple as possible to launch a token.
Yeah, I mean complexity in the sense that it's going to be more difficult to rug a token. Which
Hmm.
so just to clarify, that complexity is probably necessary, for sure. And I think going back to like when I was on Solana and just there as an observer, would maybe trade a couple of meme coins just because it was during the Dolan Trump and like Joe Biden days of you know seeing the nonsense that was going on. I'm like, all right, what do we have here? But then you see something like Pump Fund come out of the woodworks, and then no one really knows what it is. Oh, you mean I don't need to go through all of these back channels and learn how to make it permissionless, immutable, irrevocable, all of those things, and watching YouTube channels just to put together a token. So taking that complexity, simplifying it was awesome. But then also with that, there were so many unknowns that were going on with it that people found advantage of that right away. But for you all to be able to put some guardrails on and allow it to be a more seamless but enjoyable experience, not only for creating but also interacting as as like retail, is really encouraging to see. But yeah, so anyway, going back, I would love to learn more about you mentioned creating the tokenization of boat slips. Where did that?
Yeah,
How did you? So is that really what got you engaged with this and what then became Clanker? Is that
I
the
kind of. I quit my job last summer just because I was like, you know what? If I'm ever gonna build something, like now is the time. Like, don't have kids, kind of have that flexibility. And I just took the leap of faith. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try and do something here. I tried to build like a different like project every week just to see what would catch on, what people wanted. The on-chain boat registry was really cool. That was like kind of my passion project. I love boating in the summer. Boston's, we got 3 months of good weather a whole year, so try and maximize that. And I figured I would kind of try and tie my hobbies with my passion together. And I found out that no one gives a shit. Like that's just like The old heads that have boats are generally don't care about blockchain. I would try and like pitch it to like harbor masters or, get people's feedback. And, these people, are, they just know how to like use email or like, let alone log in and, create an account, send a transaction. So, that was definitely one of the things where I was like, oh, but at the same time, I still think that there's a future where like on-chain assets are a thing. But yeah, no, basically it was just like hacking around and yeah, basically just we were just kind of like messing around and started the bot was originally supposed to be like a rogue agent that kind of like would deploy a token and then like burn its private keys and then it's all goes crazy and it was a lot of entertainment. We put a lot from like Ethernet, having it be like that influencer, like an agent influencer. But what I did is I just built the basic functionality, which is like take a cast, take that input and produce a token. And it just kind of like became a token launcher. So yeah.
So funny. So did you come from a computer science background growing up, or are you okay?
Yeah. I studied computer science in college at Santa Clara, kind of went to the Bay Area because I wanted to be, I figured that was at the time the best place to be in tech, the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. Once I got there though, I was just surrounded by like all those like glass, buildings with cubicles and I was kind of turned off by it. Like my goal, I wanted to work at, like the Apple, the Google, the Amazon, but then like just being surrounded by that culture, I was like kind of off put by it just because like that was like the natural step. Like a lot of my peers did that. And I just kind of wanted to do something differently because yeah, I felt like I couldn't see my life just being like a cog in the machine. So yeah, I got into startups there. Bounced around at a few different startups. One of them was like a predecessor to Farcaster. But yeah, basically, ran out of money there. And Clanker was really my first time doing something my own, and it's been cool. It's been a lot of learning on the fly. But I think it's been an insane 6 months,
Oh
gotta
my
say.
gosh, yeah, I can't imagine. And it's crazy because you don't and to give you a little bit more credit, and you kind of alluded to it, is the fact that you took the stab at the like Bay Area, Silicon Valley life. You probably don't give yourself enough credit about how much you were learning through that process as well. And if you just alluded to this as well, working with other startups, I think just being a fly on the wall of seeing what works and what doesn't, you're subliminally taking in all of this information. And then when you finally have that opportunity to go run with something like Clanker, you're putting all of those pieces together as you're building your own thing with a lot more passion, a lot more pride. Like it's your thing. So you're making every conscious decision based on the past mistakes that you've seen and applying it to this today. So, I mean, yeah, I can relate a bunch. I tried doing a similar thing in 2021, was way too early. And it's so funny how many, like, I was trying to build something similar to Icebreaker and Farcaster, like this LinkedIn on Web3 that's a reward system, and raised a couple of bucks, had a little bit of runway. That runway was a lot less than I thought it was going to be. So had to sunset it, go work in the startup and just hack it, just trying to make connections, be a part of something. And I think from all of those pieces that you learn, you're able to like not only build something yourself, but help others that are also in the process, which is super rewarding. Um,
Totally.
so
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like you kind of like pick up these things like how to be taking the best attributes of like, the previous experiences, like, what learnings and how do I want to, be that type of like leader or how do I want my, the ideal startup to be? There's pros and cons of everything. And I think that like it's I it's funny because I put out like an article like at the end of the summer, like pre-Clanker, I was like, I don't want to be a founder anymore. Like I want to be, an employee at a high functioning company. I thought I quit my job because thought I wanted to be a founder, but it turns out I don't want to do it. And then Clanker hit, and I was like, all right, well, you know what? I was literally like, I gave up on that goal because I thought I didn't want to do it. I thought I couldn't do it really. I'd not really think it, but like, I was just like, a technical person. I don't know if if I'm, cut out for this, but I think it really was just like, I think it comes down to like timing, really. Like your venture with like, on-chain LinkedIn. I think that's like, it's just the time and the place. You could be too early, like my on-chain boat registry. Maybe one day it'll hit, but like, if I were going to continue to do that, like it just wouldn't, you know, it's like trying to force a piece that's like not quite there. And I think Clanker is like a great example of like, just shipping something super simple and seeing if it sticks. And if it didn't stick, like I would be, probably working at another startup or, but, I think it's just like the timing of it, I think it was like right around the election. So the market was changing. People were like kind of, willing to take more, crypto focused, paths. And yeah, honestly, I think like luck, timing, I think like the hard work is like the stuff that's not shown. Like I built it in like 5 days. It wasn't like a polished product, but the past summer of like building quickly and iterating, I think paid off
A lot of
where,
sleepless
yeah.
nights, a lot of just like not leaving the apartment, not,
Yep.
not seeing anybody for a while. And the couple of things that stand out, it's the like square peg, round hole thing that everyone always says. Going back to the boat, registry thing, why wouldn't that work? It was just a little too early. And I think, it's one of those things that I keep going back to, which is, and I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like Web3, I think the minute that we decide as a collective to just stop siloing ourselves and stop making it like Web3 or dApps, or those are things that are confusing that I think are deterring us from scaling up. Again, these are just my thoughts. I could be
No,
wrong.
totally. Yeah, I think it's like the education part too is like such a big thing that's lacking. Not in the sense it's just like the onboarding or like not. I feel like Privy's basically handled that. You see that with Banker, right? Like just you can claim your fees to the terminal, perfect. You don't need to manage any like private keys, things like that. So I think the onboarding's there, but I really think that the biggest hurdle right now is the education. Like even me, when it's like, oh, like why should you launch a Clanker? It's like, oh, you can generate revenue off attention. But it's like, what's the revenue? People are like, oh, it's like, it's shit coins and like, but they can potentially have value and things like that. It's just, yeah, I feel like it's like we're still early, honestly. I feel like it's like there still hasn't been that like click with, at least like my social circle around me is like, I still don't get it. And it's not even that it's hard to use, it's hard to understand. And I think that like that's the biggest kind of barrier. Um, you know, maybe like, policy too, but
Sure.
um
And that
truly the
makes
Wild
sense.
West.
It is, and I think that's the exciting part about it. And as we, it's kind of sticking to theme, the complexity and simplifying it. When you have things that are floating around, the terminology that floats around, the minute that they hear, and they being the normies, the minute that they hear crypto Web3, they immediately think, because of what they see on the media, those that don't understand legacy media, whether it's a threat or just sheer ignorance, they're putting this energy out there and this philosophy out there that's tied to it, which is negative, right?
It
Like they
is.
don't see the positive that's in it. And just like the Wild West, there was a lot of shady stuff that was going on as people were searching for gold out west.
For
And
sure.
it did. And those that stuck out were rewarded. Some not, but some did massively. And I think we're seeing a similar shift um, in this era of like this information era. If you apply yourself to learn, you're going to be rewarded. And with that said, I think it's kind of, and not to get so philosophical, like I know everything, but I do think that we're going to see, if we continue to stay siloed and not and keep this attitude of like we need to bring them in, I don't think that model's going to work. And I think it needs to be the opposite, where you see things that are being built here that need to scale out, and you need to bring those people that are founding these amazing tools and products and solutions, and you have to bring them to others and not the other way. It's going to be so hard for us to attract the old school and the old heads to come in. Whereas if you have this thing that's built, and I'm speaking more so for founders that don't have the funding yet, that don't have the confidence to go build that thing and just ship like you did with Clanker. I think, I just had Tim Riley the other day on the show, and what we were talking about is like, how are you getting creative? How are you finding ways to innovate with what you're building that's going to allow you to be enticing to the VCs instead of going and chasing with the idea that you have, like all of those institutions, just go build that thing yourself. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And I think that
Totally.
attitude will help.
Tim's the man. I think like you hit it right, like nail on the head there. We need to go meet people where they already are. We're not gonna like change the way that people interact on the internet. Like it's just that's just a hard, path to climb. We need to like yeah, and like we need to make, meet them in the middle or like, show them the power without even showing them the tech. And yeah, I feel like we're not quite there yet. We're probably getting, I don't know. I can't predict the future, but I feel like this last, this current cycle that we're in, whatever this is, I feel like this is one of the larger steps where NFTs almost got us there. Where it's like, oh, artists are, it's so hard for an artist to make a buck, but now you can go sell it at a collection and be rewarded through, the mint fee and the trading. Um, but like it was artists, and now it's like maybe like traders in a way. I think that like even with like the sports betting, like that's such a prominent culture. Um, in the same way that the stock market is like it's only 9 to 5, right? 4:30, whatever, 9:30 to 4:30. But like sports, sports betting only on when there's a game. I know people that are like betting on, like, Asian basketball or, like crazy like things just because the game or the match is on. And, maybe that's, a method. I don't know if it is, but kind of like that similar, speculating on a predicted outcome. And I think that like Polymarket was huge this cycle. Bracky is great. Like that's the perfect UX. You don't even have to leave. It's social by nature. It spreads organically. And yeah, we need more of that.
And just to touch on a couple of points, and we were discussing this the other day, Tim and I, and it's like, yeah, you have this first wave with NFTs that's like a huge boom for us, and it shows the potential of it, and then it dies off. Meme coins pop off really like late 22, 23. They really have this spike. And then now people are kind of catching on to the game that a lot of it's PvP. They're probably going to get rugged. So now you see it dying off. But the one thing that is a constant throughout all of it is the showcase of technology and how it can be implemented in such a positive way. So I think, like, to your point, what's the next thing? Real world assets could definitely be a part of this next wave. I think we're seeing it with prediction markets like Ponder, like Bracky, like Polymarket. You see all of these ways of using the technology for net positive. A lot of bad actors are just going to be a part of that. I think that's just in nature. Like, people are going to try and game systems. That's just how we behave. But I think
Mhm.
ultimately the one constant is just the fact that the technology is continuing to improve. It's welcoming new people. For example, like the Trump coin. Right before that launches, everyone is so excited. And it's like, this is going to massively adopt. Like, Trump just launched a token. Like, everyone's going to come in. This is going to be the most welcoming rug pull. And then it's like, game over. We're done. Like, this is, and then if you went on crypto Twitter the day that Melania token launched, everyone's like, we're cooked. This is over. Like, what? Nice knowing you. Like, I need to find a staff job. This is perfect. And look back at it and you're like, yeah, it sucked. But again, there was an audience that was brought in. Did they get rugged? More likely than not. But
Yeah,
it still was something that showcased the power and the capability of, yeah, I think majority of those people were looking for an overnight success and to win big. Why wouldn't they? But I think for those that stayed and recognized the power of the tool, are going to be rewarded eventually.
that was one of the most insane charts I've ever seen in my life. Like
Yeah.
that's just so crazy. And I think that's like like a lot of like during that time I was like trying to like show Clanker. I was like, hey, like this couldn't happen through Clanker. And I was like, oh man, like but everyone's like, oh, like, that the Hawk Tuah coin and all that. I was like, guys, but we're different. And like people don't, the normal people that aren't in it for the tech already, they can't tell a difference. They see the chart and that it's tough. But um yeah, no, it's I think it's like where there's these like, moments on the calendar where it's like, ooh, like hit a milestone there. And like I think the it's all starting to kind of come together. Uh, I think this entire, industry is we have such a short, not an attention span, but like it just feels like there's like decades that go by and it's only been a couple months. So, maybe zooming out a little bit, it's like, all right, we're still on that trajectory, like, the Bitcoin 100K and, um, but yeah, it's it's been insane.
It's been insane. But I think the thing is that if you're going to be in it and you're going to be some of these like, prospectors that are going west for a new opportunity, if you're really going to be a part of it, think about all of the, all of the setbacks, all of the things that could have gone wrong for them if they're ahead.
Totally.
I mean, if one of those wheels popped off of their wagon, shit out of luck,
Yeah.
good luck. And I think that's it's so comparable to what we're going through right now is, those people resilient, you have to be resilient too to build something here. It's not going to be the first go at it. I mean, granted, you could say Clanker's the first go at it, but it took a bunch of different attempts. And like you said, I shipped maybe like 10 or 15 different things before this one hit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I actually love your like the gold rush analogy. And it's like the rug pulls are just like the bank robbers pulling up and be like, yo, that's mine. I'll take that.
Exactly.
And yeah, no, it's, I mean, definitely like, like a bloodbath out there. And, we're just trying to make it more fair and honestly, just more transparent. And it's not perfect. We're trying to get there. It's it's a learning thing, and we're just trying to listen to what people want, and build the best token experiences for them. And outside of that, make it fun, right? I think that's a big thing that we really try and do. It's like set the culture. It's Clanker summer, and we're all just trying to chill at the beach, drink strawberry daiquiri, whatever you're sipping on, Modelo, whatever. It's I'm in it like for the tech, but it's fun. It's fun people here. Going back to like the Farcaster thing, it's talent rich.
It's talent rich, and I think one of the things talking about making it fun, I uh I haven't met a better bunch in a social media platform. Like I still like I kind of get weirded out at how nice and positive and friendly everyone is in the culture because it's just not real. In your day to day, people are very reserved, people are very protective, clicky, cultish, like, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying from my experience of being on here, it's a polar opposite of something like even Reddit. I mean,
Hmm.
like X or Reddit, all of those social media platforms, they're great for their own, in their own right. But I think there's just something different about the culture and community being built here. And I think everyone recognizes in order for this to actually scale into something really special like it's becoming, you have to keep that energy, you have to keep that positivity. Because at the end of the day, if you're a developer, like let's just say, for instance, I want to go ship something. If I'm out there like being a dick or shit posting or just causing like a riff, no one's gonna want to really like buy into whatever I'm building. So
Yep, so true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, CT was yeah, it's a mess out there, but I think that like yeah, I mean, I'm just a big fan of Farcaster because like it's just easier. Like if we were gonna build this on X, A, it wouldn't be possible at the start because no embedded wallets. B, Nanon makes it super easy for webhooks, whereas if we're gonna do this on X, 50K a month. To me, that's insane. And it's just like it makes it easy to ship shit. So
absolutely. And I mean that's what's so cool about this is it's like what attracted me to in the blockchain, what attracted me to being a part of this in the first place was the fact that all it was advocating for, this is, Bitcoin, Ethereum days, 2016-ish, when I really started to pay attention. It was about making it decentralized. And I think that still you're seeing some networks that claim to be, but aren't. But also democratizing access. And I think that that is something that Farcaster is really priding itself on and may like slip through the cracks of what it should be recognized for is you have people from across the world that you don't need to be in Silicon Valley. You don't need to be in the Bay Area to go ship something that's really cool. You don't need to be VC backed. If you have an idea with Nadnar and Farcaster Social Graph, like you can just ship it. Like you keep saying, you can just ship stuff without ever, having to think about the 50K that you need to raise just from a friends and family around and go beg mom, dad, uncle, whoever, just for like just can I get a couple of schmeckles here? Like they don't you don't need to do that today. If you
Yeah.
if you build an audience, if you talk about your stuff, it's inevitably going to get picked up. People, this is what's so cool. For better or worse, people on Farcaster are listening. Whether you have 10 followers, 10,000, 100,000 followers, I know there's developments and things that they want to iterate about the algorithm to make sure that like they're doing a better job of that, which I applaud. But I really do think if you are busting your ass on there, you can, for developers, like you can build an audience, especially if you're putting out good content. If you want, excuse me, if you want to fill like a lane, if you want to find a lane and just talk about sports and you just keep consistently talking about that passion, people are going to attract to that. A community can be developed on that, even if they're not interested. So, like Bracky, for example, a lot of the people in that group chat have never paid attention to the NBA, have never paid attention to golf. But because of the audience that Tim and Max and John have built, people are attracted to that and people want to like be a part of that community. And then the second piece is, oh well, this is the aspect that we're really focused on. Great. I'll So it's more like community first, cool people that are built like that want to build and want to bring people together. Great. What is it that you're like trying to attract us to? So that part of it comes second. Whereas like if you're trying to build something, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like if you're trying to build something and get that institutional attention, you have to have the like idea first, not the community. So
Yep. If you build it, they will come. Feel the dreams. Farcaster, that should be your slogan right there. Because it's true. Like you'll know like people will take notice of hard work, dedication, continuous shipping. Like and it's not like in like an overbearing way. You just share like what's on your mind. If I see that you're building a cool Farcaster project, not even a Clanker, but just like a general project, like I will interact. And mini apps makes it so easy for that. You don't even have to leave the page. So, yeah, it's just like, imagine like a pitch deck, right? Like you don't even have to have a pitch deck to, raise your first couple
which
bucks.
is crazy. Which is
Yeah.
crazy. I don't think like for people that don't understand that, building a pitch deck is the most tedious like grind. And then especially when you let's say you are fortunate enough to have a mentor or a strategic advisor that is affiliated with these family offices or VCs and you're able to pick their brain, the amount of times that they're going to correct and say they don't like something, and then you go to another one for a second opinion, they'll say that one thing that they told you to correct is actually what they want. So trying to like cater to these, like you can't please everyone, and instead you're just like just throwing that to the curb, and you're just building your product. And then to your point, if you build it, they're going to come, and you see that so often on Farcaster for things that are so minuscule. Like even if you're minting, like there's one that came out for all of the people that got pro, for the people
Mhm.
that didn't, I forget who it was, and shout out to
Yeah.
I
The anti.
yeah, like
Yeah.
even something so simple like
Permissionless.
yeah, dude, it's the things that are being built are so creative, so nuanced, but also like anyone can do it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I
I,
couldn't be more excited.
it's like people, I mean, it's like it's almost the opposite now, right? Where like before you would do a pitch deck, you would raise funds, you would ship. Now it's you ship, you raise funds, and then I don't even think you need a pitch deck, but like maybe maybe that's the route you go. like you get traction, maybe then you can take whatever investors, things like that, you know, distribute or like, grow. And so that's kind of I didn't even think about it until right now. That's pretty cool.
But I think the thing that you just touched on, and even for what's happening with Clanker, is like, and I don't know, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you said it earlier. You didn't go and raise money for Clanker to get this thing launched,
No,
and
no.
that I think is what's so special about this ecosystem that's being built. Is like, you're finding opportunity, you're finding ways to be innovative, you're finding ways to be um, creative, and find ways to like use money in a way that if you did, let's just say you did somehow by miracle raise 5 million for your seed round or whatever, you're now sitting with a bucket of $5 million. Yeah, you can go hire your dev team, but now like you've got this pool of money. Do I know as a first time founder how to allocate this money, how to like do it in a way that's going to keep the lights on for a long time? Instead, you're now finding a way to build with the limited resources you have. So, in a way, you're teaching yourself as a founder to be resourceful, and you know the power of the dollar even more so than you would have if you did get that pool of money. And the best part yet is the fact that you didn't do it with a single dollar from anyone else. So now that you have this product, you are generating revenue, you are building a model that is scalable, that is then making all of these VCs and people be like begging to get on your cap table, right?
Yep.
And you can tell, and now all of the power is in your hands as a founder. And I think the thing, and this is the last thing I'll say, and I want your thoughts, but that's telling you as a like whoever's listening to this that is building, that you don't need to go get that money. Go prove to yourself first that you can build a cool app or mini app or whatever, have people test it. You don't even need, you may not even need to raise money anymore.
Facts. Yeah. Whereas like before, you would have to get approval. It's like, oh, and there was only a select, amount of people that would, greenlight these ideas, basically giving them money to build it out. Now it's like you don't need anyone's permission to go build whatever you want. And I think that's truly the beauty of it here. And yeah, I think it's gonna unlock so much because like imagine all of the the projects that weren't funded and because someone was like they didn't see the vision. And now people can, be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go do it. I don't need your approval to tell me if you I think I might be am I glitching out here?
A little bit. I now see your background. It looks like you got some cool poster in the background, but
It's my
yeah.
girlfriend's Taylor Swift.
Oh, Swifty. That's all right. That works.
I was trying to keep that a secret, Jeff.
Hey, look, dude. I am not a Swifty. My wife is more of a Lana Del Rey lady, but
All right, respect. Yeah, this is like our guest. Took it over as the office.
Yeah, no, all good. You don't need it, dude.
What?
You should rock that Taylor Swift poster. With
I usually do. I usually do. I had that background on for that. I also am a big fan of Riverside. It's cool tech.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it's like this Must Clank podcast that we're bringing back with Jack Wild. We're all kind of matching with the neon shit, but
Yeah.
we're back. We're
good.
We're
Yeah, no,
dogs. Background dogs.
Shit, dude. So yeah, what with all of that said, what's on the priority list for you all right now? Is there anything that we should be expecting to ship out for Clanker soon? I think the V4, like, is there a launch date that you guys have in mind?
We're targeting like between June 9th and June 11th. The contracts are in audit right now. Hoping to wrap that up soon. But yeah, V4 is going to be a huge unlock on so many levels. I think my favorite is the extension aspect, but also the variable fee mechanics, and really just excited to see what people do with it. These are going to be super flexible, and like yeah, we're starting to kind of build out this framework here, and yeah, so V4 is up next, and excited to build out some of these extensions for kind of that custom feature.
So can we talk a little bit about extensions in your mind? Because I'm sure the amount of creativity that we already have and know of, they're probably going to take it and run in so many different directions. But from your perspective, what would you say is a great use case right off the rip of what these extensions can do?
I think the most requested feature is like a buyback and burn mechanic where, these rewards go back into purchasing the token and taking them out of supply. We've had a lot of inbound for that, and I'm super excited to deliver that. So that's kind of like the first kind of use case there. And really build it, whether it's like, or fetching Oracle prices that are off chain, and things like that. Just like I just feel like it's gonna unlock a lot of creativity. Whereas before, you kind of had to fit into this box. Now it's just like you can do whatever with it. And yeah, I'm excited a lot more about like the post launch mechanics, see what people build with that. Really, just, our goal is to make it, as easy and flexible as possible to build on top of Clanker. So, yeah, people, excited to. I think there's been a lot of cool use cases already out there. People are really just building entire companies around it, and it's super, super humbling
No,
to
I
see.
mean it's a huge component of what's going on Farcaster. Like I said, every other token that I see launched and showcased is created by Clanker. So I think that says enough about what type of value Clanker's bringing to Farcaster. So one thing, and forgive the ignorance, do you have is it already like functioning? Do you have plans with X? And again, forgive the ignorance. I've been here for a bit. Like,
No, you're good. You're good. So I built out the X integration, but that was kind of prior to Banker launching. So bankers, they're a great partner interface to us, and rather than kind of like opening up like kind of that funnel, we I think that Banker does a great job of that. So we're big Banker fans, so we want to let that ride. And the code's there. It's just like it's a pain in the ass to work with X. So it's there if we need it. I think that at this moment we're just kind of focusing on the contract level. I want to really I'm starting to get back on like LinkedIn, kind of go corporate,
what?
flex on flex on these people. So
Whoa.
I think that Clanker on LinkedIn would be sick. Um,
Clanker on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh.
LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what their APIs look like, but that would be kind of
That would
a cool dream.
that would be insane. Is that on the roadmap?
I mean, unofficially, what we want to do is basically like continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. And as long as it's like, secure and like reliable,
Why not?
why not? Yeah. So that's kind of us trying to meet people where they're at.
A hundred
And
percent. I
yeah,
just can't wait for all of the like goofballs that are posting on there to have access to building a
LinkedIn. Yeah, those LinkedIn influencers are about to
I,
be
I,
farming.
dude, I literally tried, like when I first started working at QuickNode, I was like, man, I don't know where to build an audience because I tried on X and like not knowing what I was going to do. I still like transparently have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying to like stay in the traffic and trying to just figure out like what sticks for my own like, you know,
I don't think
network.
anyone knows what they're doing though. We're
Yeah,
just we're
yeah.
just having fun doing it.
Let's be honest, yeah. And so I tried posting on LinkedIn. Fun story. I like just recently like took the stab at posting on LinkedIn just to educate, just be like, let's look at the reality of what Web3 is. Let's look at crypto. This is what you all should be paying attention to for, you know, having a LinkedIn since like freshman year of college, the audience is like I already have like a number of people following me. So I was like, okay, cool, let's try that. I go to a Christmas party back home and a kid that was like 3 or 4 years younger than me at high school just comes up to me and he's the biggest troll. He just comes up to me and he's like, yeah, Jeff, so Bitcoin dude, you're gonna post about fucking Bitcoin. And I was just like, oh man, like I forgot. Like
Yeah.
I'm not engaging with anything I post, but like he's totally watching it and just being like, "Oh, dude." Like, I'm such an, you know what I mean? Like, so,
I've got a college friend's bachelor party next weekend, and I'm just like preparing on what they're gonna say. Like, it's going back to like the Huck tour shit. They're gonna be like,
yeah.
oh, but yeah, no, LinkedIn. It's at least it's a little bit more positive than X, but yeah,
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying though, right? It's like it's the
the
people,
cringe.
yeah, the
Yeah.
cringe. But the thing is, it's like I was trying to like fit into the cringe and try
Hmm.
to like appeal to those people in the like only way that I knew how to on LinkedIn, and immediately just like in person, people are like, "You're such a clown, dude." No, warranted. I'll take that right on the chin. I am a clown. I can't believe I even took a stab at this. I think I have like 3 posts on LinkedIn being like, "Hey,
Humbling.
yeah, no, super humbling."
You know,
Yeah,
I had to post on LinkedIn because like I quit my job. I was like unemployed for like 6 months. I was like, all right, I gotta update the feed here. Like people are gonna be thinking I'm like starving here, and I forget. I think I did something super casual, but like all like lowercase, and like casual shit like anti LinkedIn culture. Sometimes it's just like sticking it to the suits. And I feel like that's what DeFi is all about. So
percent. I think, and look, it's a great point that you're making too, and I want to touch on that as well. It's like, yeah, sticking it to the suits. I love the fact that I can just wear a hat and a sweatshirt and not think twice about it getting on Zoom calls, which is great. But simultaneously, I going back to the original part of conversation, we have to bring what we're creating and bring it to them. So, like you're doing with even thinking about creating a function for LinkedIn, you have to meet them where they are. So I totally respect the fact that they think I'm a clown for
yeah.
doing what I'm doing. I was sitting in their shoes and still trapped in that matrix. Like I would see this freak show that's wearing a tie-dye sweatshirt and a cat suit, like telling me, "Oh, that's where I should put my money." Like, "Oh, I should invest
yeah.
in you, you clown." It's like, all right, like I'll take it.
they'll you
It'll
know
teach me
what
to
they'll
relax.
be coming back. They'll be like, oh man, I should have listened to Jeff's podcast more.
Right. So that's the funny thing. I don't post this on X. I don't post this on LinkedIn. I don't post it anywhere other than, well, I have Spotify and YouTube, but like this is strictly for Farcaster. I know the audience that would actually maybe consider listening,
Yeah.
and it isn't on LinkedIn and it isn't on X. And
It's
I
just like a
yeah, go ahead.
it's like a foreign language for them. It's just like I get it. Again, it just goes back to the educational aspect where like, we gotta tell them what's up.
I know, and it's just like my wife's best friend. They were at like a book club thing, and they're talking, and they're like, "Yeah, Jeff just started a podcast," and it gets back to her husband, and he's like, "So Jeff, tell me, you started a podcast?" You know what I mean? I'm like, "You're not," and he's like, "I
and
gotta listen. I gotta listen." I'm like, "You will never find it. You're not gonna find it."
yeah,
Like, no, absolutely not. So, no, there's once the learning curve is there, and once people have kind of met, I'm fine with putting it out there. But no, this is very much for the Farcaster community.
dude, I think you're doing it right. It's gonna be big, man. I feel like, and then it's just gonna be like people are gonna be like, instead of like clown, you'll be like crown. Like
Dude, look at
there
you,
you go.
Yo, king mate.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, man. And look, we're coming up to the top of the hour. I want to save time for us to debrief. But dude, I am so appreciative of you making the time on a Friday. I hope you get to enjoy. You're in Boston, right? I hope you get to enjoy the outside. Maybe go on a boat, hang out, drink.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the plan is to put the boat in either today or tomorrow. We'll see.
Good, good, man. Well, amazing. If you could just stay on for 5 more seconds,
Yeah, totally.
after I hit stop. But Jack, it's been a pleasure, man. I can't thank you enough for making the time. I'm
Pleasure is mine, Jeff.
again.
Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. We'll get you on next time, maybe after this thing's launched, and we can talk more about it once it's out there.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, man. Thank you again.
Thanks.